I don't care what Jay Billis says, man. I think Cleveland is in some trouble, all right? Or at least have some cause for concern. Uh, it was a good game on ESPN between the Cavaliers and the Houston Rockets, of course. It was a marquee matchup. Something was missing yesterday between the Spurs and the Golden State Warriors. The Stars came out tonight. Of course, LeBron James is aware of the MVP talk, and he saw MVP candidate in James Harden, so he showed tonight. He had a good game. I think he had 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists or something like that. Um, he had a individually very good game, but James Harden was the star of the game. Hit a triple double, the 16th for the season for him. I think he had 38 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. And of course, Houston got the win at home by a count, I believe, of 117 to 112. Earlier in the game, Cleveland was down by 9 points, but they had a 41-point second quarter, highlighted by Richard Jefferson, who was in fuego, old school term. He was in fuego in the second quarter, 16 points and 6 of 6 overall from the field, including 4 of 4 from three-point range. But the Rockets were able to get back into the game, playing their game, which they have done all year. And it was nip and tuck pretty much all the way until the very late when Houston was able to edge out the Cavaliers toward the end, 4 to 5 point win. The Rockets improved to 46-21 on the year, while the Cleveland Cavaliers fall to 43-22. Kyrie Irving had a good game as well for Cleveland, 28 points, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists. My takeaways from this game is that with this loss, Cleveland is now only 2 games ahead of the Washington Wizards, who won today. And, of course, the other team of note for the Eastern Conference is the Boston Celtics, who won today, absolutely ass-raping my Chicago Bulls. I can't remember the damn final score. I think it was like 100-80 or something like that, but it was really worse than that. The game was not close at all. By a miracle, we got 80 points. I think at halftime we only had 26 goddamn points, so we were able to score 54 points in the second half, which, I mean, I know this is about Cleveland and Houston, but Chicago Bulls, I'm changing my mind, man. I think they need to blow that team up now. It's a disaster. I'm really pissed off as a Bulls fan because when we beat Golden State last week, all right, we were 31-30. Since then, we've lost 5 consecutive games. How do you do that? There's no excuse for that. Blow that team up, man. Even if it includes trading Jimmy Butler on draft day, I'm tired. Just start over from scratch, man. And I love Jimmy Butler, man, but I'm just tired, man. I don't think Jimmy Butler is the type of player. I'm starting to think Jimmy Butler is a B-plus rated star who's being presented as an A-level guy, and he's not. I don't even think he's as good as prime Paul George now. Okay? Let's blow that fucking team up. But going back to this game, big win for the Houston Rockets, like I said. I think they were 16 of 45 in three-point range, which is very good. James Harden was 13 of 28 overall from the field, which is okay. He was only 4 of 14 from three-point range, but that's fine, okay? My biggest problem with Cleveland is this. They miss Kevin Love, and it shows in their interior defense, which is really a problem. Okay, it's always a problem with this team. You know what I mean? First it was their depth, and it's still a problem with their depth. Their interior defense is horrible. And also, in my opinion at least, I think at times certain players are late on their defensive rotations. All right? Then there's also certain players whose shot selection leave to be desired. Certain players who've recently come back and still going back and still doing the same stupid shit. You guys pretty much know who I'm talking about. So, I've said that. And there's an interesting statistic that is glaring for any person who's a Cleveland Cavalier fan. The fact that this team is in the second game of back-to-backs 0 for 9 this season, which is tied for the worst record in the NBA along with the Brooklyn Nets. That should be very, very alarming to anybody. Okay? Anybody. They should be lucky that we no longer have back-to-back playoff games like we used to. Remember back in the day in the first round, you might have a playoff game come on Saturday, and then Sunday that team plays again. You know, they're lucky we don't have back-to-back playoff games. But Cleveland is in trouble to me, man. They're not as dominant as over the Eastern Conference as they once were. LeBron James, to me, is arguably the best player in the NBA, but there's a fella in San Antonio by the name of Kawhi Leonard, who I think is, when you look at offense and defense, because people tend to forget about the fact that there's a defensive side of basketball. I think that Kawhi Leonard is quietly becoming the best overall player in the NBA. That's just my opinion, because I really do value defense. But I don't want to make too much of this game, but it's an overall pattern with Cleveland, okay? It's not just this particular ball game, but Cleveland's been losing a lot of games recently that they probably should be winning. At least Golden State has the excuse of not having Kevin Durant. And also, even without Kevin Durant, and if you look besides their starting 4 or 5, Golden State is really weak. And you saw that highlighted when their bench pretty much played the Spurs bench and got their ass handed to them. With the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're not that, compared to the Golden State Warriors, they're not that depleted as far as their bench. I mean, I think it gets a little bit overblown. They had some players on their team, you know what I'm saying? They have some people come off that bench. You have a J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert and a Richard Jefferson. You know what I mean? Now you have a Deron Williams, just a faded Deron Williams, but you have some people on that team. And I didn't even know that Houston had picked up Eric Gordon. They have like 2 or 3 ball handlers on their team now, playmakers. My goodness. But anyway, back to Cleveland. They're not as depleted as Golden State, but they don't look good. Something is just not right with this team. I don't know. I guess I'll end the video on this note, a little comical note. Anybody notice LeBron James is ever expanding ball patch in the middle of his head? My God, man, just cut that shit off, man. I mean, my God, man, you're just hanging on for it looks ridiculous now, man. This shit looks absolutely fucking ridiculous, man. Just cut that shit off, man.